contract talks with Payne Haas, new manager. Will he stay at Brisbane? What's he on now? What's he asking for? Where are we at here, Hoops?
Look, he signed with Brisbane for the rest of this year plus 2 more seasons. And he's on very good money. They gave him an upgrade. He's on around $750,000 this year, and it goes up to $800,000 next year and the year after. But the Broncos obviously want to keep him. They see him as the linchpin, the cornerstone of their forward pack. They don't want him leaving Red Hill. But all of us have been around the game long enough to know that where there's smoke, there's generally fire. And he seems, for whatever reason, there seem to be rumblings, even though he's gone through the change of agent, and there seems to be some sort of...
What's he unhappy with? Is it the price? So he wants more.
That's that's the great unknown.
I think he's fallen in love with the headline, or certainly people around him have fallen in love with the headline. He's $1 million a year player. So that's the magical figure that he... See, this is the dangerous thing with managers. The amount of times players come along and a manager will get in his ear, who's not his own manager, it's a rival manager, will get in his ear and say, mate, you've shortchanged yourself, you should be on more money. If you sign with me, I'll get you more. Now, Haas has left his manager and he's signed with another manager and he's now out in the market for $1 million a year. He's already met with Canterbury, asked for $1 million. Canterbury just said, no, not worth it. Phil Gould said last night, as a general manager of football, he said last night on Channel 9 that we don't believe he's $1 million a year player, and if you're going to pay $1 million a year, then 70% of the games they've got to get the result for you. And as a front row playing 48 minutes or 54 minutes, whatever he's averaging at the moment, that's very difficult to do. Generally, that $1 million mark is in your spine playmakers, the guys who are going to dictate the result. Haas is on the market asking for $1 million. There's no doubt he's potentially one of the greatest props we'll ever see. He's doing things at his age now that very few props have ever done in the game.
Yeah.
So he's a very good player, but he's playing a position that just doesn't command $1 million a year. Now, some team might do that, but the minute they do, they will bend their salary cap out of shape.
And buyer beware, Jason Taumalolo, David Fafita.
Yeah.
$1 million forwards.
Yeah.
Have they won comps?
No.
Are they on their way to winning comps? No, the roster's out of whack.
Yeah.
And maybe the Titans are on their way up, but he's an edge back row for Fafita and has to wait for the footy to come to him.
It's very difficult.
I wouldn't be paying $1 million for Payne Haas.
Puts the Broncos in a precarious situation, trying to retain him for $1 million a year. They've got Reynolds for $1 million a year too.
We had Nathan Brown on here a couple of years ago, and he said you can no longer do a good job as a coach at a club anymore, because the minute you sign a player on a good deal, he walks away and someone will get in his ear and say, mate, you deserve more. And the player then comes back and says, I deserve more. This is what Payne Haas is doing now. He's gone to the Broncos. I want more money. I want an upgrade. I'm playing good football. Well, no, you signed for this deal.
Yeah.
You're not waiting to the end to then renegotiate for the new deal. He's gone and asked for an upgrade. No, you can't do the good deal.
Because the clubs have to be strong. The clubs actually have to be strong here and reject it, because... Case in point, the Panthers won the comp last year. Fisher Harris is on $550 last year. His salary goes up over the next 2 years. Do you know who was in the front row for the grand final Rabbitohs side? Mark Nichols, $150,000.
Yeah. Junior
Totola, $300,000.
Yeah.
You can get to grand finals without paying $1 million for a front rower.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to watch the clubs. When we talk to the agents, we talk to coaches and administrators and all the rest of it. It's fascinating to see where they all sit as far as their ability to not be wooed. Some fall straight into it. Others are very circumspect and sit back and say, well, hang on, I don't know about this. But there's this temptation, particularly from the clubs that are struggling, there's this temptation to say, you know what, we just need him. Let's just give him another $150,000. We know it's going to bend us out of shape. But the minute you do that, that's $150,000 you can't spend on anyone else. Yep. That's $150,000. So if you're next in the market for a halfback and he's after $800, you can only go to $650. And suddenly you're out of the market for that guy.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of big decisions to be made by the Broncos with Payne Haas coming off contract or looking for an upgrade and extension. Now, the Dolphins' recruitment drive is red hot at the moment, but they just can't catch one at the moment. I mean, Harry Grant, have we heard any news on him, Hoops?
Their number one target at the moment is Harry Grant, and they've offered him a 4-year deal worth in excess of $1 million a season. So you're talking about $4 million plus. the word around the game today is that Harry's basically told the Melbourne Storm that he's going to be staying there. He's signed for next season anyway, so he gets an upgrade for next season, and then he adds an additional 2 seasons for 2024 and 2025. I get the feeling now, Braith, as though the Dolphins will say, OK, we quickly move on, and they'll push all in towards Kalyn Ponga, Cameron Munster and Reece Walsh.
Well, they've got this decisions to make and make quick because I think, how many have they signed, the Dolphins?
Oh, they've got
7 or 8?
6,000 plus, yeah.
You know, they've got to fill a squad of 30 by next year.
But they've got to land a big fish in the spine.
yeah.
In the spine, they've got to land someone that everyone's going to go, I want to play with him.
I can't believe they didn't go earlier and hard straight away at Kalyn Ponga. I just think he's a franchise player that they could have
But Dave,
sold to the stars.
He is, of course he is, but he's tricky in terms of it's hard to cut a deal with Kalyn and his management.
Father.
It generally, history tells us, negotiations are drawn out and you don't get a decision until the 11th hour at the last minute.
They can't afford to be drawn out if they're going to be making decisions. But Kalyn's the only one that's off contract this year, and they need the player for next year.
That's right.
They need a marquee player for next year. So Kalyn's in the hot seat. He's actually sitting there doing these ones at the moment because he can stay at Newcastle or he can go to the Dolphins, which would pretty much pay huge dollars for him to be the face of their organisation. And he's an unbelievable player. So he is in...
Franchise player.
So he can take his time at the moment.
The ace up the sleeve for Kalyn is he'll draw enormous third-party money if he goes to the Dolphins.
He will.
Which the Dolphins are clearly aware of, which will also help them keep his number down on the salary cap, which is important for them because they do need quality across the park. They can't just put it all into one player. But he's going to be, if he goes to the Dolphins, he'll be such a big name there that the third-party money will roll in.
It's a tough decision, though, off the back of Newcastle have also pushed all in with Kalyn as well. They made him captain. Yeah. He's one of their highest paid players.
And they're playing well this year too.
And this is it. It was always going to be, from an outside point of view, it was always, if the Knights start fast and are performing well, well, they're a better chance of
Does he owe it to Newcastle to stay there after what they've done for him the last few years?
No.
He doesn't.
No, he's paid to do a job. He's done the job.
Has he done the job?
Well, he hasn't won him a comp, but he's done a good job.
He hasn't got close to winning a comp.
No, he hasn't. But
they agreed to clauses in his contract that allows him to be in this situation.
Yeah.
They allowed it. They knew it was coming.
Let's be honest, when you've got a player like Kalyn, what chance do they stand to not have those clauses in there, else he wouldn't sign there?
Braith, you sign a contract, you go there and you perform to the best of your ability to do that contract, and Kalyn Ponga's done that.
There's no loyalty in the game.
I don't reckon he has,
anymore.
Kenty. I don't think he has aimed up in terms of they haven't won a premiership, right? They've only made 2 final series
One player doesn't win a premiership.
The last couple of years.
One player doesn't win a premiership.
He's injured a lot of the time. He spends a lot of time missing games on the sidelines. He's only played one game this season. I don't think Newcastle is
3 games old.
Yeah, and he's missed 2.
Well, if
at the end of the year, so after 25 rounds, you play 23, you're going to be upset.
No.
Well, come on.
Would you rather get 2 players or Kalyn? Would you rather get 2 quality players?
So you're saying you'd rather get Munster and, say, Reece Walsh or Kalyn? Yeah, that's probably the better alternative. Munster and Reece Walsh would be a better alternative than Kalyn on his own because you've got 2 quality players and you get them. You won't get them you'll get them a little bit more than what you pay for Kalyn. But look, he's
The only other thing is
player.
Kalyn gives you an option of playing him at fullback or 5'8".
Yeah.
What do you think his best position is, Kalyn Ponga?
Fullback. And they don't have any halves
depends.
at the moment, the Dolphins. They've got the young kid Katoa at the moment. So it's putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It's a tough gig.
Yeah, they've got some
it's a
work
tough
in front of
gig. They've got a lot of work to do now.